Hello, I'm Vikramaditya Motwane and I'm answering your questions on the Red Sparrow. Thanks for sending all these questions, and then there's some really interesting questions that I'm actually quite looking forward to answering. So let's. I'm not really a DOP. I'm a photographer. And here's an interesting sort of like little thing. My mom is a producer, right? She still produces my films and and my shows and stuff. And one of the I've always credited my career to her. The fact that she started to produce something in the early '90s, and she got me and a bunch of my friends out from college to come and assist her on that, and that's how I learned that I love this world. I love filmmaking. Um, it took me much later to also recognize the fact that my father had a massive role to play. Even though he's got nothing to do with the film industry, he had a massive role to play in my being a filmmaker because he would pay for all my photography. And this is a time when I had photography. Back in the day, wasn't digital; it was film, which means you had to buy the film and you had to have it processed, and you had to have prints made. It was expensive, and my father paid for all that without really. I mean, I'm sure he complained, but he did. Which brings me to the fact that how do I work with my DOPs, because having been a photographer myself and having learned, I mean, I have so many photos of just absolute rubbish, but through that rubbish is where you learn photography, is where you learn how to set up a frame, what matters in the frame, where to go long shot, where to go close up. My photography got to a point where I used to adapt it, so I have an eye for it. I've practiced it a lot. So that's how I work with my DOPs, in the sense that we have generally a shared love for the image. We love the image. We really wanted to pop and shine. And each of it is specifically for the certain story we want to tell. There's a certain way of a certain mood and an aesthetic and a light quality that one wants. And I generally tend to I trust my DOPs a lot, because I've also realized the times that I don't, that I get into a situation of like, oh, what if we light it this way, or actually I made a mistake. Um, so it's more about, I think we've all come to an understanding that, okay, this is the magnification that I want, and here's where I want to place the camera. But we've discussed the lighting way beforehand. I don't use so much painting as references, but it's more just very natural. And we refer to certain movies we've seen, or we refer to certain things that we've done in the past before together. They're both equally easy and equally difficult. I think every writing itself is a difficult exercise, at least for me. I hate it. I hate writing. The one of the most satisfying things is to finish a script. I think there's nothing more satisfying in this world creatively than actually finishing and putting at the end to the script, and the absolute elation that one feels after that is amazing. But the process of it for me is just, it's tedious, it's depressing, it's no fun. So having said that, what's between the original and between an adapted thing, they're both equally difficult. We adapted Sacred Games into a series. It was hard because you had to take a 1,000-page novel and try and distill it, with compelling characters into an 8-part series, 16-part series eventually. I've also adapted Lootera, which is a 4-page short story, into a feature film. So you're adding more things, and then of course there's original work. Either which way, it's about, you want to tell stories of compelling characters, and I think that doing that is a difficult process. Any cardinal rules to follow when adapting? No, man. Just, you have to just make a compelling story, right? So if there's things in the book, sometimes books are written because people are going to imagine their own world, and sometimes you have characters. Sacred Games, specifically, Sartaj Singh was a character who was very internal, and we had to actually make him an external character. You give him conflicts which are not just in his head. Those are difficult things. So the only cardinal rules to follow are literally make your characters interesting, make them compelling, make the audience really want to go on a journey with them to the end, all the way to the end. That's the only rule. Mahendra Shetty we did 2 films together, and then he went on an extended break. In fact, he hasn't. He's just been shooting something recently, but he went on an extended break. Divan is someone whose work I really liked. I saw Peddlers and I loved his work. I saw Haramkhor, I loved his work, and we'd spoken about doing work together. and Bhavesh was a film um, which we were going to do first before we did Trapped. And I love Siddharth's work in the modern day. His use of digital I thought was really amazing. So he's somebody that I really want to do for Bhavesh. And of course, Bhavesh back then was not the film it became afterwards. I think afterwards we realized we were making a graphic novel into a film. Like back then, it was a very, very indie, spirited, angry film. And of course, we adapted ourselves to it. The key factors to keep in mind when choosing a DOP is there's no factors. You have to just like their work and you have to gel with them, right? One of the things that I remember back when I was making Udaan, actually, one of the things I was working with this DOP called Venu, who's extremely senior. He's somebody from Kerala, very, very senior DOP over there. And eventually it happened, the dates couldn't work out, with him. And I asked him for a recommendation. He gave me a recommendation. Then he only called up. He says, "You know what? You're making your first film. You have to go with somebody who you can communicate with." And Mahendra Shetty and me had assisted on Devdas together. He was Binod Pradhan's assistant. I was Bansali's assistant. We knew each other. We had shot a couple of short films together, and I really got along with him. And I figured that okay, that's the way we just have to do it. You have to go with someone go with somebody you trust. Go with somebody you can talk to. Go with somebody you gel with, who's not going to have ego issues. And that's the number one call. I think when you're choosing a director of photography is someone just shoot with somebody you can hang with, somebody you can drink with, somebody you can talk to a lot about your shared work and your dreams and aspirations and aesthetic qualities. That's the main thing. Yes, KK was the first choice to play the father, and we were close to going into production, and so Anurag used to live in the same building as Ronit Roy, and he said wanted to meet Ronit for the role, for Ram Kapoor's role, what eventually Ram played for the brother's role. And I met Ronit, and I was like, I loved him. I think at that time he had a mustache and just looked really strict. And I was like, okay, he's wrong for the brother's role, because brother needed to be somebody a little bit more, outgoing. And then the dates didn't work out with KK. And then the choice was, do we push the film or do we just go into shoot with somebody else? And Anurag and me spoke about it, and he said, look, let's shoot. Whatever happens, the film should not stop. And immediately, instinctively, both of us said, let's just go talk to Ronit, because Ronit just felt absolutely correct for the role of Bhairav. And you just have to do it. There's times when the film is more important than the people. There's a momentum that's there which you have to just follow. And that's essentially what I did. You just move ahead, and I thought Ronit was perfect for the part, and it turned out he absolutely was perfect for the part. And I just went to that instinct and cast him, and we went and we shot. My views on them, I mean, whatever you need for the story. Yeah, there are some people who say, oh, too many dream sequences and too many flashbacks are just they're not pure filmmaking. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, whatever works for your story. If you want to tell you need to tell something in a dream sequence, by all means. You want to tell a flashback, by all means. Use it the way you want. And are there any better ways of showing them in a film? I don't know. I mean, I've personally not used dream sequences. I don't think. I mean, yeah, in Trapped, there were moments where he has a dream sequence where he imagines that he's gone down to eat pav bhaji. There's a sequence where he imagines being in this crowded bus, and we use a lot of these imagination moments of his and sort of created this surreal sort of scenario. Or he imagines Patrick coming out of the bathroom and talking to him. Like I said, whatever works for the story, whatever is important for the story is what's important. There are no, again, like it goes back to right in the beginning. There are no rules. You just do what you need to do to tell the story in the most effective way possible. Honestly, you need to have your ending in mind before you even start writing a script. And I know it sounds weird, but that I always feel that if you don't know your ending, you don't know what you're working towards, because the writing process is so. A lot of good writers, in fact, don't know the ending of the script when they start writing. And that's also fine. But I personally never done that, so I can't answer this question. I've never gone into a space where if I don't know the ending. In fact, if I don't know the ending, I'm actually confused. I don't know what I'm working towards. So I think knowing the ending is probably the most important thing when you're writing a film, other than like, oh, this is my story and this is the end of my story, and now I can go to the beginning and write myself towards that end. So yeah. Yeah, of course. I think I remember watching sort of Fight Club when it first came out, and being completely blown away, um, but not getting into the actual sort of like nitty gritties of it, and then watching it multiple times after that and understanding it, a little bit more, or getting it a little bit more, and having your, being able to. I don't know if some of that is also an age thing, or it's like once you've seen a film once and then you see it again, you know what to expect, and then therefore you can be able to analyze it a bit better. Um, so yeah, I can't really think of a situation where I've seen a film at a certain age and something else at a certain age, and the experience has been not necessarily different, but it's just been a little deeper. Um, but conversely, there are also some films, for example, Back to the Future, for example. No matter, I mean, I love that film, and no matter how many times I watch it, it's a film that always just has the same emotional beats that you experience time and again, even though you know the ending, you know everything's going to happen, but just it's such a wonderfully made film that you still feel tense in that moment when he's going down that last road towards the lightning strike, and you still feel exactly the same way you felt the first time that you watched that film, and that's just magnificent filmmaking. And that's a film that I always feel jealous for people when they watch it for the first time, because when they say I haven't seen Back to the Future, and I'm like, you're going to have the most amazing time of your life, because it, wish I could have all those experiences. Short answer: trust the casting done by a casting director. I think it's great because it leaves you objective. You are seeing people do things and do lines normally from the work you've already written, so it's a much better way of doing it. Of course, there are always ideas that you have in mind, that I want this person to be a little bit like that. I want this actor maybe to play this role, or that actor to play this role, and you keep throwing your ideas in there. But I think the casting director is somebody who, I think is someone that I love just leaving the work to them, because there's a lot that they bring to the table. There's a lot of objectivity they bring to the table, which I think is very useful and very necessary. I mean, look, I've been told that my characters have a tendency that they're all trapped in situations, right? And I've tried to analyze this back, and then maybe it's my thing that you want to have a character be in a situation and then get out of that situation, right? And whether it's metaphorical, whether it's actually technically physical, like in Trap. The key in building a character, and I've answered this already, is the fact that you want to make the character as compelling as possible, right? Is that, why am I watching this person? I should want to watch the journey of this person. And there are many little things that you can take from here. There, one of the things that stuck in my head is like, okay, drag your character through the mud, drag your protagonist through the mud, because once you drag them through the mud and you made life difficult for them, by the end of it, people are going to be happy when they're actually out of that mud. I always find that a very interesting, thing to have in my head when I'm writing characters or thinking of characters, because okay, how do you make it more difficult for your character to overcome what they're overcoming? And also, again, I think just in building a character, just to be able to make personalities, they have to be people. They can't be cardboard cutouts, right? You have to believe that your characters are real life breathing people. So one of the things that I always, find that pointing out is like, oh, when I see a character do something, I'm like, is the character doing it? Or is the writer wanting the character to do it? Like, who is making this decision for this character? It should always feel like the character himself or herself is making that decision. That decision should never feel that the writer wants him to go from here to there, therefore he's going from here to there. It always feel that he wants to go, or she wants to go from here to there. I think that's something that is a key in making in the writing process. I've worked with literally 2 music directors my entire life, and for my films, it's pretty much been one guy. So with Trivedi, there's Trivedi and Aloka, and they're both slightly different in terms of working. But with both of them, I always I have references in mind, right? I have a certain sound in mind. I have a certain sort of like mood in mind. So normally with Trivedi, he and me will sit and I will, and this has been through Udaan, Lootera, and Bhavesh, where there are like these are my references that I have in mind. This is the kind of feel that I want for the film. Um, and then, but after that, I completely step away from it. Once I've given him the mood and the feel and the world, I step away, and then he comes back, and I literally don't ever brief Amitabh Bhattacharya or any lyrics writer on what to write, because I feel that I'm very weak at lyrics writing and I don't have a take on it. Um, but also because then that's the place where that's the objectivity that comes in without somebody telling you exactly what to do. And I follow the same process with Aloka, even though although Aloka I've worked with her more on a background score sort of like thing. So what I'll do is in my edit I will put in some references and then I will send it to her, and then she sends me stuff back, and then we go back and forth. I'm always told that I do good references in terms of music, which sometimes is I guess for background for score people, it's also a blessing, because you get a sense of, okay, this is the mood to it, but can also be very frustrating because it's like, oh, this reference itself is so nice, and is my work. So I'm trying nowadays to not really get too perfect in the reference kind of space. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure at some point in time somebody will. I always the one film that I wish that I had made someone sing on screen. I remember we had a bet about in Lootera. Like I really wish that I had made Sonakshi sing one verse of Savarlu. Um, at the moment, I felt that, oh god, if she sings, it'll suddenly become, it'll take away from that whole feel of that film of that. But I felt, when I think back right now, I think that if there was a moment where I had made her sing, it would just uplifted that moment into a pure desire, from her point, where she's maybe watching him during the second verse and singing while he's painting. He has no clue that she's singing, so it would have been a nice, dreamy, filmy kind of effect. But that's the one song, or the one film that I feel that I should have. Yeah, if anybody knew the answer to that, they would be millionaires right now. There is no one way of doing it, right? You to learn screenwriting, you should read and you should write, and you should read and you should write, and that's what you should do. And to learn filmmaking, you should practice, 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 practice. Shoot photographs, take your phones, go out there, shoot wives, shoot kids, shoot your parents, shoot your friends, shoot stories that you're telling about when you're driving, shoot stuff when you're traveling. Today, on a phone and a laptop, or even just a simple smartphone, there is a way of shooting, editing, everything on it at one time. And really, there is, in a sense, no excuse that for any wannabe filmmaker to not be able to learn the craft today, that you can, by just literally having a smartphone. If you want to get more, yeah, if you have the resources and want to be more adventurous, fine, get a camera, get a laptop, actually do it. That's how I learned. I mean, I remember not famously, when I got married, and the typical thing where your wife's family says, "What's the gift?" and normally somebody will give you a watch or something. And I said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a camera." And they looked at me like, "Really, you want a camera?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want a video camera." That was my first video camera. I never owned a video camera before that because I couldn't afford one. And so I got my wedding gift was a video camera, and it was the greatest gift ever because I just kept shooting anything and everything with it after that. I shot Ishika's first Karwa Chauth. I shot friends' weddings. I shot, and I put them together on my laptop, and I would edit it and I would give it to people as gifts. But that's really what taught me filmmaking, is being able to practice my stuff and do it for home videos, do it as gifts to people. That's the best way to learn filmmaking. Definitely David Mamet, Billy Wilder, the Coen brothers for sure, Quentin Tarantino also for sure. I remember 20 odd years ago, I think, when I was working with Sanjay Bansali on Havdil Dichikas, and there was these books that were published at that time. I think 4 screenplays of Tarantino. There was Natural Born Killers, there's True Romance, Pulp Fiction, and Reservoir Dogs. And I bought the entire set, and it was one of the greatest things I'd ever read, in terms of, because there's a talent that Tarantino has about distilling what we would think are just so many thoughts, right? Of like I want to say this in one paragraph, and he used to distill them into two lines. And that's a talent that good screenplay writers have. That how do you take emotions and direction and action and all those things and distill them into lines which, when you read them, they mean a lot. They're not they're not giving you too much information. It's not too little information. It's just perfect. It's just bang on, and that's a talent that that few screenplay writers have. Tarantino has it in spades, and the Coen brothers also do. So reading their written word is actually fantastic. Then when you watch the film, you're like, okay, I get it. So yeah, these guys. I'm not sure. I think assisting somebody gives you an understanding of how the industry works, right? It gives you an understanding of how, what's the setup, what's hierarchy, how does it work, what are 12-hour shifts, and how hard do I have to work, and like what goes into the thing of filmmaking. Okay, who's a cinematographer, and what's that crew, and who's a gaffer, and who's it teaches you a lot about that. You have to have your own instinctive story that you want to tell. You have to have your stories that you want to tell. You have to be able to tell those stories. That's what is the best way to becoming a director. Know what you want to tell, right? Assist somebody to understand what the industry is, but keep practicing your craft. A filmmaker is essentially somebody who's telling a story in a visual medium. That's all you are. So know how to be able to tell a story in a visual medium. Read, write, repeat. Read, write, repeat. Read, write, repeat. That's the only way you can learn screenplay writing. Read a lot, write a lot, practice a lot, write a bunch of stuff, throw away a bunch of stuff. You take notes, and you will have notes and notes and notes and notes and notes written down. It's okay. Write a screenplay, delete it at the once you finish writing it. It's okay, but you have to keep reading, you have to keep writing, and you should keep repeating that all the time. Indulgence, I think, is the number one, not mistake, but it's the number one bad, habit, in a sense, that a filmmaker can have. I think all of us have a tendency that we shoot something and we fall in love with that thing that we shot, because for us it's like, oh, I did it in a single shot, or I put so much work, my team put so much work into it, and what will they think if I take it out, and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's why our editors, are always the most objective people around us, because they can tell us like, hey, this scene is not required, it's not working. But because directors have the power at the end of the day to be able to, really say what they want in their film, I think that's the one thing that we are most guilty of, is just being indulgent and not being able to remove the scenes that we really should remove because we fall in love with them. And I think learning that over a period of time, it's hard, because you've put in so much work. It's like cutting out a part of your own body. But sometimes it needs to be done, and sometimes you need to be able to watch it objectively, and be able to listen to feedback objectively. So well, I have never seen The Sopranos. I have never seen The Americans. These are the two that I really want to see. Panchayat is something that is on my watch list, and I'm going to watch it. Movie-wise, I'm trying to catch up on all the indie ones that I haven't seen. Rojo, Aniara, and like just a bunch of very, very indie films that I haven't seen or I haven't caught in theater. And also some of the ones that I just recently saw, Ford versus Ferrari, which I had, I'd missed. So that kind of stuff. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that's the stuff that I'm catching up right now. Asking a director your top 3 favorite directors is I'll have a list of 20. But if I have to really push it down to 3, I would probably say Akira Kurosawa, Alfred Hitchcock, and the third one's going to be the most difficult one, but I would probably say Billy Wilder. They're all black and white era directors. Of course, Kurosawa did, and so did Hitchcock, do some color stuff, but largely the reason I like all of them is because fantastic storytellers, but also people who are at the cutting edge of technology at that time. If you look at a Hitchcock film, you look at a Kurosawa film or a Billy Wilder film, the technology they're using at that time, those are the three guys I always feel if they were alive today, what would they do? How would they push technology to actually, make their vision better? Amazingly compelling storytellers. I learned pretty much everything from Sanjay Bansali. How to block a scene, how to set up a scene, how to do a short breakdown, the amount of prep you put into your work on setting up with your cinematographer, with your art director, with your costume designer. I mean, Sanjay is the kind of person who is interested in, at the detail of the hems on clothes and skirts, and what would the sleeves be, and he's very detailed, and it just there's a lot of care that goes into everything that he does, and I think taking some of that is something that is that I learned from him, is just being able to the attention to detail, the attention to the aesthetic value of what you're doing. On the blocking scenes questions, more about how I block my scenes. It depends. It depends from scene to scene. If there's something which is silent, or it's a musical piece, or it's an action piece, then there's a lot of prep that goes into it. I will break down that scene. I will constantly keep sort of like writing my short lists and stuff. If it needs storyboarding, I'm not a big fan of storyboarding. I feel that you tend to commit too soon to something that leaves very little space for improvisation. But I definitely do a lot of short breakdowns. I will constantly, my books are full of, the books are full of short breakdowns. And but it depends. So if a scene is something which needs short breakdown work, which is a silent scene or an action scene, then I'll do that beforehand. But if it's a scene which is essentially a dialogue scene between actors, I won't really do a short breakdown until the day of. I won't block it till the day of, because that's the time you want to leave the actors enough space to be able to improvise, to be able to see what they want to do. Do they want to walk here and sit there, or they want to sit there? And if you commit to short breakdown before that, you're sort of in your head already, knowing how you want to shoot the scene. So, yeah, that's what the answer is. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, look, Bhavesh is a film that when it finished, I was the most proud of in terms of that film. But it's also a film that was in gestation the longest. It changed the longest through the writing process. Udaan, even though Udaan I wrote in 2003 and I shot in 2009, it's pretty much the same film. The same with Lootera. Bhavani, and we wrote the screenplay and changed it, but the core of the film stayed the same. But Bhavesh is a film that went through many changes. It went through a lot, where you read the very first draft of the very first film. It's so different from the final film that came out, that it went through a process, some of which I think was good, some of which I don't think was good. I think in retrospect, if I went back into this final film, there are things on the script level that I would have changed. There are things at a character level that I would have changed. I think so much has changed in the process of it that so yeah, what would I change? I would go back and I would change. Harsh Kapoor is not going to like me saying this, but I would maybe make the protagonist a female, and I think I should have done that back then. Don't hate me, Harsh. Sorry. Wow, this is a pretty deep question. I mean, it's got a very simple answer as well, is that once you know what the format of screenplay writing is, right? And the tried and tested format for many, many years. And then nothing, of course, is set in stone. There are no rules, right? But one of the rules that we've all agreed on in a certain sort of sense is the fact that films are based on the 3-act structure. So you have Act 1, and then you have plot point 1, and then you have Act 2, and you have plot point 2, and then 3. And plot point 2 is supposed to be the lowest point, and from there you will rise up, and plot point 1 is where everything changes, and you have a midpoint. And, so you can... There's enough places, enough resources on the internet that will tell you about what these things are, what the rules of filmmaking are, and how do you convert your story to that. Number one is you need to have a compelling story to tell that you feel can last over the length of a feature film or a series or whatever. So find that one story and then use the tools that you already know to convert it into feature films, and there's no, I won't tell you the tools. You can find those tools anywhere on the internet and you will be able to get that answer. Yeah, $1 million question, bro. Honestly, I don't know, man. We'll see. I know why you're asking that question, Harsh. I don't think I would. I think what I finally put out there was my director's cut. So I don't think I would change. I wouldn't change anything in the edit. At least from the film. I mean, if I had to go back, I'd go all the way back to the drawing board and I would change a bunch of stuff in the script. Maybe go back to the original script. I don't know, man. I think I've already answered this question before. That Bhavesh is one of those films which, because of the process of it being, of where it was in the beginning and where it eventually got to at the end, there's such a lack of objectivity you have because you've lived with it for so long and you've lived through it through so many different scripts and iterations that I can't really tell what the right film was. I don't know if at the end of the day I made the right film. I don't know if the right film was the one that I had in the beginning. I don't know. So yeah. My work timings are 24 hours. I am always working. It's not a very good habit. You need to take time off, and I think this lockdown time is giving me a little bit of time to be able to spend with family. But honestly, I'm working all the time. If I'm not physically working, I'm thinking about it. I'm waking up in the middle of the night and thinking of things. So yeah, that's not a good thing very much. How many ideas can you process work in a day? Asking for a friend also. Arya, okay. How many ideas can you process work on in a day? I wish the answer was unlimited, but I honestly don't know the answer. I don't think it's 2 or it's 3. I mean, there's a process when I go through and I write where it's like, you always feel the grass is green on the other side, right? So you're writing and you're working on something and like, I wish I was working on that. And when you're working on that, you're like, I wish I was working on that. I like doing multiple projects because it just keeps me fresh, and you tend to be instinctive about your your decisions. You're not overthinking stuff because it's not like you have all the time in the world to think about it. So yeah, how many ideas can you process in a day? Maybe 3. I have no idea. And she also asked when you're getting on Instagram, which has also been asked to me by Swapsagram and also been asked to me by Pratik Shah, both my DOPs. Soon. Instagram is coming very soon. I have the time now. Yeah, we should, yeah. I think now's the time we just sit at home and have a conversation between Bhavesh Joshi and Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota. By the way, Surya, correct. Yeah, I'm going to call up Vasan Bala and see if we can do this like Zoom chat between these guys. But in all seriousness, I think it's a cool idea. I think we need some little bit more. I don't think Bhavesh and Surya themselves are enough for it. I think we need a couple more superheroes to come inside and actually create a nice universe, Bombay-based universe. Matunga and Dhiri, that kind of stuff. Last question. There's this super young actor called, super hot actor called Ranveer Singh. He looks a little bit like Kapil Dev. He's asking me, when are you making another movie with Ranveer Singh? It's like full third person stuff is happening here. So Ranveer Singh, Vikramaditya Motwane will make a movie with you when you get free from Sanjay Leela Bansali. When is that, sir? Batao na, sir, please.